introduction, and also sorry to all of you for being able to attend on such a short notice. Dr. Mehmoud, as we know, is here in participating in the Palestinian Freedom Film Festival being held right now at KeADILan Rakyat. Yeah, he'll be here up to until on Monday. So we had decided last night that his experience and views, professional views on the latest development in Palestine, especially on the ideas of two states solution, could be shared together with us together over here in Malaysia. A bit of introduction. Dr. Mehmoud is a director of Center for Political Studies based in Gaza, Palestine. Again, Dr. Mehmoud Herthani is director of Center for Political Studies based in Gaza, Palestine. He is also the chairman of Center for Political Studies of Gaza and also vice chairman of the Islamic Society of Palestine, a charity founded by Syed Husin Ali, focusing on orphans, disabled, education and developmental projects. He is also a lecturer of intercultural studies in Al-Aqsa University, and he holds a PhD in political science from Manchester University. So a bit of also introduction on Parti KeADILan Rakyat, brother. Okay, again we have our former Vice President, Dr. Syed Husin Ali, Deputy President, sorry. Dr. Syed Husin Ali is a politician, a veteran in politics for more than half a century, 50 years. He's a fighter for people's rights, formerly a president for the People's Party, Parti Rakyat Malaysia. On my right, Brother Shamsul Iskandar, wakil, a graduate from International Islamic University in Malaysia in law. He is now presently our head of youth wing for Parti KeADILan Rakyat. And on my left is our deputy for youth, Brother Khairul Anuar. Okay. So we had decided that our function tonight is a bit of non-formal, relaxing, but also to engage in constructive engagement. Your feedbacks maybe directly about the situation in Palestine, on the developments, on again achieving, and maybe briefing us a bit on what is the plans towards achieving the two-state solution. And personally, I did my own homework on this two-state solution, and I have a lot of questions to ask to you, Doctor. And I believe from all of you, we will have a Q&A session as well. Please don't be shy. We have to grab this opportunity before Dr. Mehmoud leaves back to Gaza, Palestine, inshallah. And again, sorry, Doctor, we have Brother Mustafa Mansur. He was one of the activists in the incident at the International Seas on the ship of Mabi Marmara. So we are going to review. I hand over the floor to you, Doctor.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Amma ba'd. I would like to express my gratitude and happiness being amongst you. And thank you again for having me and giving me such a chance to sit with senior brothers and junior. I can see from the faces, and this is really very nice thing to have all generations together. That will build a better, inshallah, relationships that will result in a better future for us all. And I would like to thank the Malaysian people who really were the first people to step up and rush to the help of the Palestinians after the 2008 war. I remember my fellow brothers in Palestine. I was not there at the moment. I was in the UK to finishing my PhD, but I listened to so many stories talking about the brothers who came from all over the world, including brothers from Malaysia. So thank you very much. This was really very, very much appreciated by the people, and this strengthened the spiritual and material, moral and political link. And for the first time, subhanAllah, the siege was imposed in Gaza, the war was launched, but the other good side of this is it connected Muslim to the main cause of the Ummah, which is Palestine cause. I would like to go for the two-state solution through a timeline of what happened in Palestine since 1947, the year when the partition plan was designed by the UN in order to sort out what was called at the time the Palestine problem, because there was no Israel in 1947. As you know, before that, Britain invaded Palestine and colonized it since 1918 until 17th of May 1948, where they left the ground to the fully armed Jewish gangs who took over and committed genocide against Palestinians. 700,000 Palestinians were expelled from their lands. Before the British leave the place, the UN, there were a lot of clashes, 1936 revolution against the British, because there was a clear intention that is supported by actions on the ground that the British government wanted to give the land to the Israelis under Balfour Declaration in 1917, specifically the 2nd of November. Excuse me. So in November 1947, the UN plan was to partition Palestine into two states, one for the Palestinians, one for the Israelis. None of the two nations accepted that. The Palestinians on the ground that it is our land and it is unfair to give a land of a people to another people. And the Israelis, because they were so confident that they can do better. With the agreement in agreement with the British, in 15th of May 1948, the British left and the Jewish gangs took over after they had been already establishing all the institutions, universities, research centers, army legions, etc., and they committed the genocide against Palestinians, killed thousands of people, expelled and burned villages. In 1967, June war took place between Egypt, Syria, and other Arab countries, and Israel, on the other hand. Now, Israel annexed more lands and swallowed more lands in this war, so the UN got together again and issued what is called the 242 UN resolution, where it imposed on all parties to return back to the borders of 1948. Okay? Again, within the two plans, 1947 and 1967, every time Israel annexes land and every time the UN passes resolutions, and since 1947 and 1995, the UN passed nearly 65 resolutions against Israel, and none of them was implemented on the ground. And nearly 30 of these reiterates the idea of the two-state solution. This two-state solution was adopted by the US in 90s after the first Gulf War in 1991. And if you remember the Madrid conference where Bush, the father, summoned all Arab countries with Israel in Madrid in the 13th of October 1991, he got them together in order to reach an agreement. According to this agreement, they should have the two-state solution implemented on the ground. And all the time, whenever there is a conference, Israel hastens the process of annexing more land from the Palestinians and dot every single place with a settlement to make it difficult to do any solution possible. Okay? So when they went back from Madrid, and there was a deadlock in negotiation because there was a lot of problems and related to the idea of the representations of Palestinians. The PLO at the time was not recognized by the international community, specifically by America. So in Madrid, this is funny, in Madrid conference, the Palestinian delegation was embedded with the Jordanian delegation. They were members from PLO in the Jordanian delegation in order to reach an agreement, and this failed. In 1993, a secret series of negotiation sessions between the Palestinians and the Israelis in Oslo culminated in what was known as Oslo Accords, and they signed it in the lawn of the White House in 1993, specifically on the 13th of September. Now, the schedule of the this is very important now. The schedule of the Oslo Accords, which was signed in 1993, was as this. You signed the principle of declaration, was called thus, principle of declaration, the declaration of principles. It was called like this. And in 2005, the Palestinians will have their own state together with a neighboring Israeli state, and both states should live in peace. Okay? So from 1993 until 2005, the deadline for establishing the Palestinian state that will recognize Israel state, and Israel state will recognize the Palestinian state, they postponed the crucial issues, the main issues that full of problems, such as Al-Quds, the settlements, and the refugees. In 2000, the second Intifada erupted, which meant a collapse of implementing Oslo Accords. And nothing happened, and so far there is no Palestinian state, as you can see, but the situation got worse, although there is, everything was signed. Everything, and now, when there is any round of negotiations, again there is the idea of the two-state solution, simply because now there is a trend within the Palestinians, especially secular Palestinians and liberal Palestinians, who now are trying to go around the problem by calling for one democratic state for all that is based on citizenship. This is liberal, democratic, and secular. One constitution, one citizenship, one identity, and all have same rights, no second class, no first class citizen. Israel felt that this is growing successful, especially on the Western Front, because many intellectuals amongst them are Israelis. This is dangerous for Israel simply because you are a democratic place, and you should be democratic. You claim to be the only democracy in the Middle East, okay? And the case of all countries around the world, especially the civilized world, one constitution, one citizenship, one passport, one identity, etc., etc. Why don't we go for this one-state solution? Okay? In hand to this attempt by liberal Palestinians together with Western intellectuals, writers, journalists, etc., they call for what is called now in the Palestinian literature the BDS campaign. BDS campaign stands for boycott, de-divestment, and sanctions. This comes within pressing Israel to accept the one-state solution. And Israel really is frightened of this. So whenever it is under pressure from the international community, from pressure groups, it asks some of its cronies around the world to raise the issue of the two-state solution, because this will protect Israel from being a minority amongst Palestinians. A one democratic state for all means that Ismail Haniyeh might be the Prime Minister of Israel in 3 years' time. Next election he can take it. Because, this is why every day now they ask the media people, the thinkers, the writers to talk about the solution of the two-state in order to get rid of the pressure of the one-state solution groups activating around the world. Recently, connected to the current situation in Palestine, there is nothing happening in terms of negotiations. Abbas turned his shoulder to the Israelis after they sold him down the river. He doesn't have anything. He is empty. He failed. Also, accord has nothing, is considered null and void by all people. It's by all people and by reality. In reality, there is nothing of Oslo Accords on the ground. Especially, Hamas took over in 2006 and it declared that it will never apply anything from the Oslo, simply because the Israelis will not give anything. No party, no liberation movement could give a colonizer as the PLO gave Israel. They nearly gave them everything, and the Israelis and Americans were never satisfied. And Hamas learned the lesson. On the one hand, it is ideologically stronger than Fatah, but pragmatically it cannot go anywhere near to what Fatah went. So the lesson is twofold: ideological and religious, and also reality-wise. So the two-state solution is dead, literally and practically, and there are three rounds of negotiations between the Israelis and the Palestinian team took place in Amman in the last month, and they resulted in nothing, simply because the Israelis are not willing to do anything. And that's it about the two-state solution. If there is any question, we can elaborate on other things. Brother Shamsul told me about the statement of Dr. Anwar Ibrahim today, and I understand that it is based on Hamas's stance that Hamas can recognize Israel on the basis of the two-state solution. Therefore, he wanted to protect Israel's security, as I read in some places, but I don't know. I have not seen the literal quote. I don't know the literal quote. If somebody can enlighten me in order to continue discussing this. And thank you very much.
I think he said that he is willing to recognize he said that he is willing to recognize defending the security of Israel, provided the security and liberation of the Palestinians are guaranteed. So what the government, the propagandist has done is to take him the first part and accuse him of agreeing with guaranteeing the security of Israel. And what made it worse, of course, Dr. Tabaki from London also condemned him, right? Condemned him, and the papers took up the issue, and it has become a very big issue now. To condemn him as a person who has betrayed the cause of Palestinian.
Well, it's not easy. Palestine issue is so complicated, and Palestinians themselves sometimes are under pressure to the extent that you will find people from Hamas itself who would say, okay, we recognize Israel, but give us our rights. And you will never get your rights whenever Israel, whenever as long as Israel is strong and powerful, they will never give you anything. And on those grounds, you would say anything. Especially if you are pressed by Western negotiating teams, they will take you to Switzerland, for example. I remember Dr. Salah al-Bardawi, you know him? Salah al-Bardawi, the spokesperson of Hamas. He was invited to attend a roundtable meeting with the International Crisis Group. This is very famous, now working for solutions of conflicts around the world, and it is based in Switzerland. And they invited Dr. Mehmoud Herthani and Salah al-Bardawi. The whole meeting was about the recognition of Israel. Will you recognize Israel? Will you recognize Israel? This is really nonsensical to ask a colonizer to recognize the colonizer. But again, you have to deal with it. The first answer came to Dr. Mehmoud Herthani. Well, give me the borders of Israel that we need to recognize. Because Israel, you know, doesn't have borders. And this is deliberate. Because anytime it has a chance to annex more lands, it will not hesitate. So they don't have anything on the constitution indicating the borders of the state of Israel. The Western people said to him, okay, what if we bring you? They went back for 2 days and they went back to him saying, okay, if we bring you clear-cut borders of Israel, would you recognize? Consider it is done. We bring you. It's like Byzantine dialogue, endless. Dr. Salah al-Bardawi was sitting and said, is there anything in the international law that involves any country in the world to recognize any country else? Nothing. Nothing says that you have. Imagine now, Malaysia doesn't recognize Israel, does it?
No.
Can anybody ask Malaysia to recognize Israel?
Secretly they recognize.
I see.
They have deal, yeah.
But the problem is, and then they came to them, well, but in order to have your life easy, in order to recognize you as a government that is democratically elected, let us make some peaceful, good office steps toward peace. They said, Arafat himself recognized the right of Israel to exist. And he finally ended dead at the Israeli hands. And he was considered a terrorist after he got the Nobel Peace Prize. We will never be as elastic and tolerant and giving as Arafat. And we will never give up anything. Thirdly, and when it comes to the recognition of Israel, it is not the land of Hamas, it is the land of Palestinians. You have to have a consensus on this. You have 11 million Palestinians living in more than 54 countries. All these are refugees who were expelled from their land. Can you bring me a written consent of all these people that they will never return to their land? And the negotiation stopped, and the man was angry with them, and he said, okay, you don't want to negotiate, you are stupid, you are intransigent, you don't want to take, you are extremist. And he left the table, and after that, the whole war was launched, because Hamas didn't give anything of what they wanted. So the stance of Hamas now is not to give them anything whatsoever the results are. Simply because if you give them, they will keep asking other things, and they are never satisfied. Okay? We know that the price is so heavy. Assassinations of the movement leaders and raising houses to ground. Brother, what's his name? Mustafa might have seen how was Gaza after war, the demolitions, the destruction, the killing. They sometimes experiment in new weapons with people. And there is a doctor who came to Palestine from Norway, and he said Gaza could be a very excellent laboratory of certain diseases that doesn't exist except in Gaza because of the different weaponry, chemical weapons, white phosphorus, etc., that result in many diseases that doesn't exist in any other place in the world. And this is the point about that Hamas stands on the two-state solution. They will never accept it. And as George Galloway said, okay, you say, do you accept the two-state solution? Okay, establish Palestine and let us see whether they recognize it or not. Even the two-state solution, you will accept it, they will never go for it. Yeah.
So can we say that, Doctor, you are a bit pessimist on the idea of two nations, two solutions, as it goes around again and again for the last 50 years?
I think there is a difference between two-state and two-nation, yeah? Because there is another approach, the two-nation state. Yeah, there is these three approaches to the cause here. Okay, the first one is a two-state solution, 1947 partition plan, and the second one is the one state for all its citizens, one constitution, one identity, one election, one prime minister, or one political system that is so terrifying to Israel at the moment. And there is the two-nation state. The two-nation state is each, like in Britain, Welsh people have their own parliament, and Scottish people have their own parliament, like, I think like Malaysia as well. No, not like Malaysia, no. It's some other states here. So, Switzerland, yeah. Switzerland is a very good example. So that each nation has its rule, etc., and there is this kind of federal government that controls everything. This is rejected. Nobody accepts it anyway. But the two things that frequently mentioned and adopted by many people over time, the two-state solution and the one democratic state for all. Sorry, what was your point?
Okay, can we go on what's your view on this?
You said that pessimism thing. You know, there is an Italian writer. His name is Antonio Gramsci, and I was influenced by a title of one of his articles. He spent nearly 20 years in Mussolini's prison, and he wrote this book, very big book, and called Prison Notebook, in which he talks about, Prison Notebook, in which he talks about the pessimism of the intellect, the optimism of the will. We have to be optimistic, Akhi. If we are not optimistic, because we have a lot that make us optimistic. We know, in reality, everything can push you to be pessimist, negative, weak, doing nothing, but we have the nusus that the future is ours and time is in our favor. And if you look at the international scene today, everybody can notice that America's power is shrinking, and the evidence is clear-cut after it invaded many places in the world, including Afghanistan, Israel, Afghanistan, Iraq. It couldn't go for Libya. This is a very important sign. Although it supported the move of the NATO to go for Libya, it couldn't go there. And according to one famous political analyst in the Arab world called Mohammed Hassani Heikel, our uncle may know him, Mohammed Hassani Heikel, he was the advisor of Jamal Abdel Nasser. He's very old and very well informed of the politics. He said, for people who know Arabic, it's a very nice phrase, أمريكا انتقلت من المدير القادر إلى المدير الشاطر. القادر, مدير means manager. He deals with America as a business company, as an enterprise. He says that America moved from the position of the capable manager into the wicked, cunning manager. Yeah. Before, it was able to do anything by its hand. Now it is fighting proxy wars. It is asking the British to go, it's asking the other people to go. In Iraq, it decided to go alone when it found it is difficult for itself to go alone. It asked people to come with it. And if it was able to go on its right, it would have done it, because the loot is so huge in Iraq, represented in oil, industry, etc., etc. This all is very important when it comes to Israel, because without the help and support of America, Israel, as Abu Ammar, you know Abu Ammar, Muhammad Ahmed Rashid, we visited him 2-3 days ago, and he said without the help of America to Israel, we can push them out by sticks. Israel is so weak, so fragile, and we have to spread the word. And this is a rumor that Israel is a big, powerful country. Of course, it receives 1 million a day in military aid from America. But take an example of what happened to Israel in the South of Lebanon War 2006. It didn't achieve any of its objectives of invading Lebanon. Of course, it destroyed everything. And the other example, and the clearest example, the war on Gaza in 2008, they set out 5 objectives of the war. None of them was achieved. And one main objective was to liberate the arrested soldier by Hamas, Gilad Shalit. They said one objective is to move Hamas out from government. And this unfortunately was in agreement with some currents of PLO, especially Fatah. And the second one is to liberate the soldier, and they were not able to do it, and finally they had to go for the swap deal with Hamas. At that time, all analysts considered that for Hamas to keep the soldier for 5 years, although Israel is considered the most powerful state in the region, not only that, it has the most powerful intelligence service in the region. It gives America information sometimes. They sometimes even before the Arab Spring, they gave information to the Arab leaders about coup d'etat that were designed against them here and there, and they were so powerful. To fail to find a place of Shalit in a very tiny, very plain place. Gaza doesn't have mountains, doesn't have anything. So, to the Israeli think tanks, it was more a defeat in security to Israel than the liberation and release of the Palestinian prisoners. This can show us how much Israel is so fragile a country. The issue is, in fact, in the support and collusion, the support of America and the collusion of the Arab regimes. And now Israel is feeling terrified. There are a lot of statistics, research is being done in Israel. How is the shape of the region will be in the next one or 2 years? It is not easy for them to imagine that the Ikhwan al-Muslimin, alhamdulillah, now in charge of the parliament in Egypt. And they are so active in Jordan. And these are 2 important places, especially Jordan, 600